Okay, so I'm reading a new book. It's adolescent literature, which I'm really interested in, and it's called A Little Lower Than the Angels, and it's winner of the Whitbread Children's Award in 1987, and it's by an author called Geraldine. Now, let me get this right because my pronunciation's not brilliant. McCuaghrean. Let's leave it as that, shall we? Basically, I'm really interested in adolescent literature because I did a BA BEd teaching degree back in 1995 even to 1998, and I wanted at the time to go on to do an MA in children's literature followed by a career in education psychology, though down to one reason, although that didn't happen yet anyway. So I'm going to read this book to pass some time. I haven't read it before, so that's one reason I'm reading it now. So I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Gabriel is worth 20 shillings as an apprentice to the stonemason. It is an uncertain, dangerous life until God himself, in the shape of plain Master Garvey, reaches out a helping hand. But will the new life be any more secure, overshadowed by figures as the devil and his scowling daughter? In a world of illusion, people are not always what they seem, least of all Gabriel. And so it begins. What is man, that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man, that thou visit him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honour. Chapter 1. Too much blood in the brain. One moment he was holding them, the mallet in one hand, the spike in the other, and the next he was upside down, hanging by one foot from the rope. The loop closed round his ankle. He could feel the hemp biting into his skin. His knee, thigh and pelvis seemed at the point of parting company. He was swinging, suspended, his arms flailing, his hair hanging away from his skull. Blood hammered inside his head. The mason, who'd been standing underneath, bent down and picked up the mallet and the spike and weighed them in his hands. The sun, shining through the stained glass window to his pock-marked face, turned it terrifying green and red. You mindless little toad, you half-wit yard of kennel water, you could have done for me, dropping them. He made as if to throw the tools back up at the boy, but did not let go of them. There was nothing Gabriel could do to protect himself. Strung up by one foot and just within the mason's reach, he took hold of Gabriel's hair and set him swinging so that the boy crashed against the wall. Look at you. What good are you anyway? Look at your pretty yellow curls. If I wanted an apprentice with curls, I'd assign on a girl. Next time, you do me a favour. Break your neck. Get him down, Squit. The second apprentice, Squit, squatting on the church floor with his head between his big, dirty knees, squinted up at Gabriel and thumbed his nose, babbling, "Girl, girl, girl's got curls." Suddenly, hanging there from the roof of the church by one foot, waiting for that idiot Squit to slacken the rope and let him down, everything became horribly clear to Gabriel. It was like looking back on the route of a dreadful uphill journey from the last summit. The mason did not want an apprentice stones mason. He had never been interested in teaching his craft. Small boys irritated him. He could hardly stomach them near him. All the mason wanted was the fee from Gabriel's parents, the 20 shillings they had paid to put the boy in the mason's charge and have taught him a trade. Now there was a second apprentice, Squit, and talk of a third. But the mason did not teach. They learned anything they learned by watching him. They were given the arduous jobs, squaring off corners, rubbing down the chisel marks, darkening down the mason's accidental chips. When they saw precious little of the 20 shillings spent on their food or clothing for either of them, it was true, if Gabriel had fallen and killed himself, he would have done the mason a favour, made room for another apprentice, another unearned shillings. Perhaps that was why he was hauled up to work with one foot in a loop of rope instead of a basket like the mason or fat squid. Perhaps the mason wanted him to have a fatal accident. That thought made Gabriel want to shout out, "Help! Don't let me die!" He wanted his parents. He wanted to break his apprentice bond and go home. He hated himself for wanting it. Most of all, he hated himself for wanting to cry. He was glad of the blood turning him blue in the face and pounding in his eyeballs kept back the tears. Squid loosened off the rope and let him fall hard, head first, onto the floor. It was too much for Gabriel. He pressed the heels of his hands into his eye sockets, squatted back on his heels and sobbed. He was, after all, only 11. "If my father knew," he began to say, meaning to share his flash of insight with Squid. But when he opened his eyes and took away his hands, Squid was far away, dancing round the nave, singing "Girls, girls, girls got curls," and pushed up against Gabriel's face was the mason's pockmarked grin. Knew? Knew what? He's fathered a grizzling girl? 'Spect he's glad to get rid of you. I did him a favour. I got you away from that cooling mother of yours, always washing you, always slicking you like a cat. We moved on, didn't we? We be going back, are we now? You're bonded to me now, sure as a brand on a cow. You're mine, you smear of lard. Mine to spit on. Got it?" As he caked yellow eyes travelling over Gabriel's face and head, what he saw caused him such disgust that his sweat-wet cheeks distorted as if they were melting. He searched for the worst insult in his huge mental library of insults, and mouthed into Gabriel's face with his bared fangs, "Pretty boy." As Gabriel put his foot back into the rope loop and was hauled back into the church roof, he felt too weary to hate the mason. It took all his strength he could muster to despise himself. His pretty face, his curly hair, his cowardly tears. It was probably true. His father was probably glad to see the back of him. Couldn't go home anyway. Didn't know the way back, he thought. He looked down at the church and the green and red sunbeams falling on the mason's scabby hair, and thought how ridiculous to think he would only take us for the bond money. Ridiculous to have too much blood in the brain, I suppose. And we'll leave it there for the time being.